Good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Fritz. I'm a Portland City Council member. This is Christina Nieves, who works with me. She's my senior policy advisor for the Water Bureau. Portland is an odd form of government in that we are not only policymakers, but we are also oversight for the different bureaus, and I've been in charge of the Water Bureau for about a year now. I've been on the City Council, this is my 11th year. So you've been in charge of various different parts of the organisation. I came from England originally, in case anybody's wondering why I have this accent. But I've lived in Portland for the last 33 years and in the United States since 1979. I need to start by saying, first of all, thank you, each of you, for being here. Thank you especially those of you who have agreed to be on the advisory committee. I am really, really angry that we have to do this project. I've been fighting this project for the last 10 years. When Randy Leonard proposed doing it 10 years ago, I was able to get us to go to the federal government, get a variance so that we didn't have to treat the Bull Run water, and that all we had to do was to test for cryptosporidium. And for 10 years, we have avoided doing this project. And now we were the only jurisdiction in the country that got the variance. To the rule, which is that jurisdictions may not drink from uncovered reservoirs, and they may not have unfiltered water. So I know that many of you are also very disappointed that we're here tonight discussing how to do something that I don't want to do, you don't want to do, but the federal government is telling us that we have to do it. And some people have asked, what if we just say, no, we're not going to comply with that? The state would take over and they would still make us do it. So I know that some of you are going to continue to try to advocate with the federal government, with elsewhere, not to do it, and I say more power to you, that's fine. We also have to recognize that as of now, we have been told to do it, and so we have to go ahead and decide how to do it. So I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. If you are successful in being able to stop it in some other process, more power to you. I would love to not have to spend $850 million of ratepayers' money from the Portland metro area to build a plant, which I don't think we need. But that's not where we're at right now. So given that, we want to be your good neighbours, and that's why this is called a good neighbour agreement. We know that there's construction, and the plant itself will have a profound effect on this beautiful neighbourhood which is where the only site that we looked at 7 different sites. This is the only site that works from multiple different angles, and so therefore we want to be as careful of this neighbourhood as if it is our neighbourhood, and we can't do that unless you tell us this is what's important in this neighbourhood, this is what's important to the immediate neighbours, this is what's important to the traffic, this is what's important to all kinds of different factors, which we do have the option of deciding how this is done, and we can do that. So the Water Bureau has done several major projects over the past several years. We had to build an underground reservoir at Powell Butte in Portland. So we had neighbours there. We're currently building an underground reservoir at Washington Park in the very heart of Southwest Portland. And so neighbours there have been greatly impacted. One of the neighbours of the Washington Park project recently wrote to me and said, the Water Bureau treats our neighbourhood like it's their neighbourhood. And that's our goal for this project, is so that we are available to you. Christina's got cards. She and I are available to you. The Water Bureau staff are available. We want to be able to answer your questions. We want to hear your input. And we want to together have some agreements about how this project is going to get done. Any questions on what I've just said? There probably will be going on, and I am the only member of the City Council who actually answers all my own emails, which means I sometimes get badly behind. But if you would like to email me with a question or comment, it's amanda@portlandoregon.gov, and you're welcome to contact me anytime. I will now return to the script which I've been given. I basically covered all that. I want to introduce David Peters. He is the program director for the Bull Run Treatment Program, and he's going to lead us through what we're going to do tonight and for the rest of the process. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I got a mic. Thank you.
You've got, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I just want to reiterate that. I know it's difficult to get out here in an evening and spend a couple hours with us, but we're excited to have you here and are looking forward to having your input and comments going forward. I get to take care of a little bit of business before we get started. And before I jump into things, I'd like to introduce the team that we have together here this evening to help facilitate the process. Dan Spiker will be our facilitator this evening, so he'll be engaging the group in several activities and conversations as we go along this evening. We have Benita Oswald, is the Water Bureau Public Information Manager for our project, and so she's one of the first contacts that's available if you have questions, comments. Her name's on a lot of the information that you see going out these days. We also have Nikki Pozos with Barney and Worth and Libby Baki, and they're here supporting the development of the conversation and programs this evening. And then we have a lot of folks that have helped with the logistics. We have Aubrey, she must be outside. Aubrey, Melissa, and Melissa. There's Aubrey back at the door. You probably met her coming in. So we're all here, and we can help answer questions and work with you throughout the evening. And so we're looking forward to doing that. Want to mention that this is the first part of a two-part orientation. So we'd love to see you back next week, next Thursday night, same time, same place, 6 p.m. here at the high school. And so tonight will be about getting to know you and getting to know your questions and thoughts and concerns about the project that we have going forward. So that will be the focus of this evening's meeting. And the folks up front at the tables are folks that you've committed to being part of our process, which will be an 8 to 12 month long process, meeting a month. And we appreciate you committing to being part of that because we are personally invested in helping to get your concerns addressed. And also, thank you to the audience. We will have an opportunity as we go throughout the evening to have you have some input as we go throughout the evening. So there is a public comment period that's built into our program. And if you haven't already gotten some food, please feel free to do that. You can bring it in here and eat also. What is it? Timber Pub and Grub has provided the food this evening, and we appreciate their support in doing that. At this point, unless you have any questions for me specifically, I'm going to ask Dan Spiker to take it from here.
Thanks, Dave. Again, my name's Dan Spiker. I work for a consulting firm called Jacobs. We're located in Portland and all over North America. I answer to Dave, so when he gives me the cutoff, that means I got to sit down. So with that in mind, this meeting is really about the people that are in the room and those that are sitting at the table. And as Dave said, we are going to ask for comments and reactions and reflections from the rest of the participants today. One other thing about me, I do a lot of meeting facilitation, but I think it's important for all of you to know. Many of you I've introduced myself to, and you probably noticed my left eye turns out to the left. When I was 4 years old, I was stabbed in my left eye with a pencil by my younger brother, and it just happens to be who I am, right? My boys don't even notice it anymore. So when I'm looking at you with my right eye, okay? Just something to bear in mind. That's, of course, thank you. All right. Oh, I always make a joke, okay? So, Sean, how do my brother and I get along? Ask me, go ahead.
Probably, how do you and your brother get along?
Great question. Glad you, well, we don't see eye to eye. Sorry, little levity. Okay, who are you is the next part of the meeting. You'll notice there is a projection on the screen that represents a number of letters. And I have in front of me here a listing. So what I'm going to ask you to do, those people at the tables, is just simply to introduce yourself very briefly and give us an impression as to where you are located on the map so we have a reference point just to get some perspective as to how you are situated relative to the site itself. And I'm going to go through the list from A through the end of the alphabet here. So I will start. So Mike Cowan, why don't you start? Where's Mike? Where's he sitting? Okay, there you go.
I'm A. We've been there about 15 years, and we're both retired. And I've worked 30 years in water reclamation treatment plants, so I know how it would work.
Great. Good. Appreciate it. Thank you. How about Pat Meyer? Pat, where's Pat? There you are.
Pat Meyer, I'm at B. We're the second house in on Carpenter Lane.
Great. Thank you, Pat. And Neldon. Neldon's up. And we're going to ask you to use the mic because it is a little hard to hear in the back of the room. You're at letter C, as far as I understand.
Letter C, yes. My wife and I have been there for 40 years, and it's home. My wife is in the audience.
Great. Thank you. All right. Is it Daniel Helwigi? There you go.
Yeah, Dan Helwig. I am in D. We've been there for 6 years. My wife and I retired this last year, and so right now we're surrounded by filtration plant.
Got it. Thank you. Mike Cost. Coast. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
My wife and I have been here, we're E, the last house on the east. And we've been there 23 years and didn't figure we'd ever leave.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Pat Walter? Pat. Pat and Dean. You're both here. Great.
Yes.
Thank you. You are letter F.
Yes. And we've lived there for 7 years, and we lived in G for 17 years. And we moved across the street and bought that other house.
Great. Thank you. Lauren. You are at letter G, correct?
Yes, I am Lauren Corder, and I live next to Pat and Dean Walter. We live on beautiful 10 quiet acres.
Great. Charlie Davis.
I'm Charlie. I'm representing H. That's where Oregon Trail Academy is. I went to school there for 9 years, and I just recently graduated.
All right. Sean, you are I.
My name is Sean Narrison, and we are and then we are also leasing the Bull Run Filtration Project land.
Gotcha.
I think I don't know how many years we've been leasing it, but our trees are on that property.
Great. Good. Cheryl here? There you are. That's right. Jay?
Hello, I'm Cheryl Littlejohn. My family has lived on this property for 45 years. So we're hoping not to have too much disturbance and want to continue to stay there.
Great. Thank you. Hugh. Where's Hugh? Where's Hugh sitting? Right here. You are K.
Hugh Isley. I have 20 acres of blueberry farm in K. And we also have land down by the Cortrell School, the blueberry farm. You can see it right next to the school. And then we have the property on Bluff and Cottrell come together.
Excellent.
So it's kind of surrounded.
Thank you, Hugh. Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson. You are.
Yeah, I'm Mark Johnson. I'm number L, and we've been there about 12 years, 12 to 13 years.
Great. And
You
Jason?
love microphones.
Jason's next.
Jason Riggert. Lived there for about 5 years. Thought it was going to be peaceful.
You are letter M.
M.
Right along Contrail Road. Okay. Patrick Holt.
Hello, I'm Patrick Holt. I am N. I actually go from, my property goes from Cottrell Road to the city property boundary on the east side, on their west side, my east side. I've actually farmed a city property since about 1980.
Wow.
Second generation on that property, and fourth generation farmer in the area.
Great. Andrew, you're next.
Andrew Brown with the East Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. It's a non-regulatory form of government. And we provide a range of services and programs to residents of East Multnomah County.
Great, thank you. Mike Walker is next.
I'm Mike Walker. I work for the City of Sandy, and since about 2014, Sandy's been a wholesale customer of the City of Portland. We get about a third of our water supply from the Water Bureau in the summertime and about half of it in the wintertime.
Great, thank you. And lastly, Steve Wise.
Good evening. My name's Steve Wise. I'm Executive Director of the Sandy River Watershed Council. We're a nonprofit that does conservation and restoration from Timberline to Troutdale and all of the streams and rivers that drain into Sandy, including the Sandy, the Salmon, the Zigzag, the Bull Run, other tributaries.
Great, thank you for that. All right. So as Commissioner Fritz mentioned, this is a conversation with what we're calling a site advisory group. And Dave also brought it up that part of our conversation today and next week is really kind of, we're forming a little bit here over these two meetings. How do you want us to act? How do we engage? Who's in the room? Where do we go from here? What are the next topical areas? So today is fundamentally designed to be one of listening to this group up front here, plus getting a reaction from the rest of the team in the room. What's important to you? What do you want to hear more about? What do you want to talk about? In what level of priority do you want to talk about those items? Okay? As the name implies, the word advisory is an important component to this particular conversation. Okay? We're here to listen and learn to what your needs are, and as best as possible understand those and reflect back what the city can do to provide any means to improve the conditions as part of design and delivery of this project. Okay? So how this process will work is how we define it together. At the end of it will be a product, a physical product that will represent agreements. Commissioner Fritz brought that up. It is a good neighbor agreement. It is an actual physical piece of paper, or more than one, of course, papers that reflect what we've come to in terms of a conclusion. And also relative to that is this word advisor, advisory group, is designed to suggest that we don't have to have consensus per se or agreement among everybody on these tables to move forward with a particular idea. Okay? If it makes sense, if it's a viable idea, it fits through a number of filters that are appropriately, that was a play on words, by the way, I didn't mean that, right? Filter said that. If it meets the needs associated with this delivery of this project and design and construction, that's something we'll carry forward, okay? So we'll define more of how our roles come together, how we interact, how we engage as part of our conversation over the next hour and a half, and we're together again next week, okay? All right, I'm going to give just a little more detail, and then Dave's going to pick it up and talk about a little bit more about the project site. So, as I mentioned, over the course of the next few months, we're going to be meeting with this team. And on the back of the FAQ sheet that you have here, okay, on the front is frequently asked questions, and on the back is a listing of time frames. We are proposing that we meet on roughly a monthly basis over the course of the next 12 months. Okay? We'll define, starting today and next time we're together next week, as to what topical areas to cover specifically in those particular meetings. So if you want to spend more time and energy on design, for example, we'll spend a lot of time on design. If you want to get a little bit more understanding about construction, we'll bring in the right experts to provide some education, some experience in how this has been done with other places, and provide you with that reflection or information. It really is how you want to approach this. Okay? We don't have preconceived notions as to what exactly those topical areas will be as of yet. We have some guesses and some estimates. You're going to help us define that tonight as part of our detailed exercise. Okay? Also, the mechanics of this meeting we're going to decide upon next time we're together. Are we going to meet on a Thursday night in a particular location? Is 6 to 8 the right time frame? What other things are going to help you feel comfortable about getting engaged and being part of this meeting setting? Okay? You want to meet someplace else, so on and so forth. So we'll work out all those details the next time we're together. And again, today is about listening and learning. So with that, Dave has some more details about the project site itself and the phasing that these projects typically go through.
Thank you, Dan. So we're here to be talking about the filtration site, which is on the block here, the Bill Run Filtration Project site. I make that distinction to be clear that we're not talking about a project that's going on at our existing facilities called our Lusted Hill site, where we do our corrosion control. There is a project that is getting started there, is currently in design to update those facilities to meet the regulations related to the lead and copper rule. So we're going to be focusing on the Bull Run site, and that's why many of the neighbors here are located around that site. So our conversations are going to be focused on all the design and construction that will happen at that site as we go over the next several months. Pipelines will be coming in and out of that facility. Many of you have seen the proposals that were made in the past week about where those pipelines could be, and so they may be affecting your properties. So that may come into the conversation as we go forward also. What we'll be talking about as we go through, that for us, there's 3 phases that are ahead of us as we think about what we need to do at the filtration site. And that's the design. We need to figure out what we're going to do and how big it's, or what we're going to do to put the facilities on this site. We haven't hired a designer yet. We are in the process of doing that. So we haven't gotten into the details of what we need. We've talked to you at some of our previous public meetings on the decisions we have made in terms of the size and the site and the type of filtration. We know those questions or have answers for those. But the elements about how it lays out on the site and how it gets integrated together haven't been worked out yet. We are, as I mentioned, we are working to hire the designer. That's the information we'll be bringing back to you as we work through that design over the course of the next year. So you're on the front end of the types of questions, and we'll be able to give us feedback as we enter into that design phase. The second phase is construction, and that's a longer period of time. We have to have this facility built by 2027. We anticipate the construction would get started somewhere around 2022 after the design's complete. And that's a 5-year period. Now, that is a long time, but I want to focus on the fact that a lot of the early activities are the more intensive activities. The site work, pouring concrete to build the facilities, those activities will happen early in that 5-year period, over the first year to 2 years. And then we start doing mechanical work, we start doing electrical work, and that's the type of stuff that will be more focused on the site itself, as opposed to a lot of activity in and out of the site. And actually, out of that 5-year period, most of the construction will be focused in 4 years. The last year will be startup and testing and getting the facility ready to provide water. And then we also want to talk about 2027 and beyond. That's when we'll begin to operate the facility. And then you'll be interacting with our employees on a regular basis. And we'll be dealing with the delivery of materials to the site and things like that. It won't be as heavy a traffic as what we're going to experience as we go through construction. It'll be more like what is experienced now with our employees already driving through those neighborhoods, doing their jobs every day. So That'll be the process we've kind of lined out. Dan mentioned that it's flexible. Right now, on that schedule that's shown on the back of the frequently asked questions, it's laid out as 4 meetings to talk about design, 2 about construction, 2 about operations. If we need to adjust that because there's more focus or more interest, or your questions are more focused on the construction, we'll spend more time on that and adjust the others as we go. But that's what we hope to learn this evening as we go throughout the evening, is so that we can begin to gauge and create that process for you. So, Dan?
All right, with that, I have to be careful about 2 things: putting my head in front of the video camera, and secondly, about walking in front of a speaker, because we'll get feedback, okay? So if we're either can't be heard or can't be seen, please let us know. All right, we're going to turn it over now to Nikki. She's going to rock and roll on getting us to work together at the tables here.
Great.
On getting some information from you.
I'm just going to start to flip these over. So we've already talked to many of you many times, but we still want to hear directly from you. What are your questions and concerns? So the whole idea, as they've been saying about this process, is that we're going to do it around your questions and concerns. And what we've got to start with is we've already got some topic areas that we know we've heard from you before. For example, landscaping. What's the edge of the plant site going to look like? Lights and noise during construction and future operation. There's chemical safety. That can be chemical safety on the site or chemical safety during transport. The facility size and appearance, certainly for those of you who are, some of you are very, very close. Traffic, I think that's come up. And then wildlife and environment, that was just a spare one there. So what we'd like you to do in your groups is you have those orange pads on your tables and some Sharpies. And what we'd like you to do is write down your questions or concerns on those, and then we're going to put them together with the right topics. And if you feel like we've forgotten a topic, this is what this extra one is for. We can certainly add topic areas. But what we're trying to do is group them together. So we're anticipating these might be grouped kind of topics that we might cover at a meeting. And what we want to do is take all your questions, so when we get to the meeting, say on traffic, that we can actually say, these are the 12 questions you guys asked or concerns you expressed. Did we get to all 12 of them? So that's our goal here. And for those of you in the audience, we also have green. Is that the right color? So we have a different color, green, sticky pads. So if you would like to write down your questions and concerns, the folks at the tables, as yours are ready, you can just go put them up on the right topics. So you can kind of move in and out. And if you see someone else's that looks almost identical, you know, someone said elk and you had a question about elk, it'd be great if you kind of put it close together. For those of you in the audience, we don't want to have everybody come up and down, but Bonita and Libby are happy to collect them from you, and we will incorporate them into the process. So we might not manage to get all of them up here today, but we will incorporate them into that future process. Did anyone have any questions about what we're doing? Well, I will say that this is focused on the Good Neighbor Agreement. So the Good Neighbor Agreement is about what's happening on the site. It's not about everything to do with the project. So I will say that there is, the focus tonight is on the Good Neighbor Agreement. So, yes.
What does that mean to you to be a good neighbor? Because a lot of us have been informed, you know, fairly recently, and you know, those of us that are close by. We were informed, you know, sort of recently. And I don't know about all of you guys, but I don't feel like you guys have been a good neighbor from the get-go.
And I understand that, yeah.
What you guys
Right.
are doing is unethical and is totally, completely wrong. And to have
Right.
us here, and you guys are jumping right into the design and everything, and we're not all on the same page.
I understand that you feel that way, and like the commissioner said, you are. There are other avenues where you can fight this project if that is your wish. But, however, this project.
What do you expect from us? You want
Right.
us to tell us?
We want you to tell us what are the specific concerns you have about the facility, so that we can actually reach agreement on things like, if you're worried about construction impacts, that we can actually reach agreements on what that would, on how we would manage those. So, yeah. Those. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a question or comment over here.
I think what Lauren is referring to is and just to, from my own perspective, perspective. The questions or the issues of concern that
Mhm.
we've been stating all along are issues of concern that you cannot mitigate. You cannot mitigate keeping a quiet rural community with $1 billion project. There's no way you can do that. With hundreds of trucks every week, you will completely ruin our community. And so, when you talk about a good neighbor plan, there's no way. What are you gonna do? Build at night? That's not gonna work. Build during the day? You're still gonna have traffic. Build a different kind of project, maybe somewhere else? Will it be less expensive?
What I'll say is that there are many significant facilities built in many places, and these types of agreements are done on many of these projects. I'm not saying that that will mean that it's going to be unnoticeable, the project. I mean, we're not here to tell you that. What we are saying is that a lot of the concerns that have been expressed, say lighting, was one thing that people had expressed concern about. There absolutely are ways that your input can get into how the lighting is done at the facility, and those types of things absolutely can be addressed. You know, people were concerned about chemical safety. That's something we can definitely both educate on what's going to be done for chemical safety and make some agreements on these things. So I'm not trying to say we're going to get to an invisible project. It's not going to be an invisible project. However, I think a lot of the concerns we have heard about in the past are things that that absolutely we can work with you on. And this has been done in many places. I know it's hard having a construction project near you. I know that. And I know people don't like having...
Have you been next to a project like this? Have you lived in a 7-year project zone? Because I can tell you right now, when you listen to all these people that bought their homes or have lived there, my husband's family homesteaded that. We've been generations there. And I can tell you that these people thought that they were going to live and die on this property in a nice, quiet, rural setting. And that's not, you can't change, a project of this size is not going to allow them. We're basically held hostage for 7 years.
I get construction is challenging. I will say that treatment plants in general, people quite find them to be very good neighbors in the future, I will say. Often people find them quite quiet. And so I will say construction is hard, and I agree, nobody likes construction. Yes, I had not a facility this size, I live in the middle of the city, but I did have a construction site right across the road from me. And my neighbors absolutely tried to fight that facility, and the facility was still built. We had an agreement with them. They changed what the facility looked like to meet our neighborhood's requirements. We had rules about parking and a lot of these things, and we did end up getting a lot of agreements in place that made the facility a lot better for us. And that's absolutely what happened. And my neighbors did try to fight that facility. We happened to be moving in right when it happened. It happened that the facility did still happen, but we do have a good neighbor agreement, and it did make a difference to how the facility looked and also how it was operated. For example, we were worried about all the staff parking on the street parking, and we ended up making an agreement that they had to park in the underground parking, and they wouldn't do that. So I would still say there are things that can be done. And I'm not trying to say that I can't notice that project. They ended up being a very good neighbor, though. I'll say it's an assisted living facility and it's very quiet. So I do want to get to the exercise. I do, like we've said, we're not here to tell you that by participating in this, you are saying that you want this facility or that you are not going to fight this facility. That's not the point. I will say that there are things that we need to know from you about what you want. And that will help us build a better facility. So you may fight it, and it may still be built, and you, in the end, will be happy if you have this facility be the best fit that it can be. So that's what we're here to do. And we do have an opportunity later for public comment. We're not going to take public comment all the way along. So.
Does it exist yet?
Oh, of course not. No. This is what we're doing is we're recreating it. But I'm sorry, but we can't have all the way through.
As
Sorry.
an example?
Do you have existing?
Yes, there are examples.
So I can get those from Bonita?
Bonita
Yes.
is the right person to ask, yes.
Great.
This
All right.
whole project, this whole process you're doing right now is trickery and treachery. It's part of a charade. It's a ruse. We see through it. You're not faking us out. I know you think we're naive and dumb, but we're not.
We don't.
And I really don't accept this whole process. I'm really thinking, folks, if you're as devoted and serious as we are, we ought to all get up and walk out, because they are not doing anything for us by having this process. They are not gonna listen to us, they're not gonna take care of us, it's a charade on their part.
What I will say is we are not here to stop this facility. That is not what we're here for. But I will say we absolutely are here to listen to you about what you want about this facility. What do you want the edges of this facility look like? Absolutely, we're interested in hearing what you have to say about that. Are there particular traffic routes you're worried about safety and children that you would like us to avoid during construction? We're absolutely interested in hearing from you about that. The problem is we don't live in this neighborhood, so we don't know all this information, right? So we do really need your input to make it better. And I think you will see as you go through the process. I get that you're skeptical right now, and I understand. I understand why you're skeptical, but what we're asking is for you to stay at the table long enough to start seeing the process working. And I think you'll see that your input is being taken into account and will be documented through the process as we work through it. So what we're asking you to do is take a little bit of a chance here to sit at the table, show up for a few meetings, and give your input and see how it is taken into account. And I get there is some faith involved in that, but I really do believe that you're going to get a better project for your neighborhood by taking that leap of faith. So that is what we're asking you to do. I get there is some faith involved in that, but I will say it has happened many places before, and many people who've worked through this process have ended up happy with the result, even if they were people who are fighting the project. So this has absolutely happened before. People have fought the project, they've participated in the process, and they've actually been satisfied in the end that a lot of their input did get incorporated. It's absolutely happened at other places. So what we're asking you is to participate and give that feedback. So I think we're going to move forward with the exercise. And absolutely those of you in the audience, it's just, the reason why we can't constantly take questions from the audience is because it's a huge commitment to be on a committee like this. And if we just take constant comments from the audience, it's hard for us to move forward through the meeting. No, there's a period on the schedule, so we can't just constantly, because the problem is then the meeting never ends. And if you committed to doing this for a year, you won't want every meeting to never end. So we're really trying to do it within the set time frame to be respectful of the people who've committed their time to this process. So. People were invited largely based on their proximity to the site.
We're all involved. We're all going to be affected by this project in manners of no good to us.
The reason why we've, right. You can absolutely, if you were really interested in being, one of the processes next meeting is going to be talking about if there's perspectives that are missing at this table. You know, if there's, we tried to get different perspectives. We do always focus on people who are most directly impacted, because in general, if the people who are most directly impacted, if there's a lot of people who are further away, the people who are closest can feel like they don't get enough of a voice when they have the biggest impact. So if you are immediately around, we contacted everybody who's immediately touched by it, so that would have to be a, so I think the best thing here is you can talk to Benita. We are going to be talking about next meeting about if we need to add additional, and that's going to be up to the people on the committee, whether they think we need to add more people. So we were going to leave that up to the committee members.
I don't know why you left Mayberry Lane in my house and my street, my neighborhood off your map. When I'm right below where the kennel stood, it's going down through.
So yes. Yeah. Okay, that's great. And I will say, if you have comments like that, write them down. We do need to move forward. What I have heard a lot from people when we're at these meetings is people say, well, you just keep saying you're going to get to that. Well, here we're trying to get to it. So we're trying to make forward progress. People keep asking us questions. What's going to be done about traffic? What's going to be done about the roads? What about chemical safety? People are asking us these questions, and you get really frustrated when we don't have the answers yet. So what we're trying to do through this process is get to those answers. But if we don't get to move forward, we're never going to get to that point where we get to hear your concerns and really address them and talk about them. So that's what we need to do to actually move forward and get to the answers you've been asking us for, and that's what we're trying to do. So if you want to work at your tables, you can just write them down. And like I said, people in the audience are absolutely welcome to write things down on notes too of what their questions and concerns are. So what I will say is we're going to have 2 more minutes right now, but I get some people are like, man, I'm just warming up and I've got more stuff to say, which is great. So we're not trying to stop people from giving input. So there is forms out there that you could fill out and leave tonight at the end of the night. You could fill out more sticky notes. If you're in the audience, you can just keep going. You can fill those out. If you come up with an idea after you leave, you're welcome to email it to Bonita. Her contact information, bullrunprojects at portlandoregon.gov. That's on all of the different handouts. If you got mailers at your home, her email's on it. So if you have more questions that you want, you can email them to her. So it's not over, but we do need to end this period of it. And what I was going to do is ask, I better do something with this one. I was going to ask the commissioner to just come and kind of take a look at them and give some highlights that you see.
Thank you to everybody who's participated in this and given some concerns, and I even see some suggestions here, because I think the next section is going to, or not, maybe not the next section tonight, but as part of this process, how would you like to see some of these concerns and questions answered? So we've got solar panels, question mark, power overhead or underground, elevation of structures. This is all on landscaping. Is there going to be fencing? So, for example, the committee is going to discuss, would you like fencing? Or would you like something else? What other treatment would you like at the periphery? Let's see, lighting and noise, concern for low lights at night. At night, this is rural area is serene and quiet. Will I hear it? What lighting will there be at night? How do you plan to handle dust and other particles during construction? That's actually more of a construction question, so I might move that. We'll figure it out. We'll get it on the right thing. So security level during and after completion. When will the pipeline routes be decided? Good question. We have not decided those yet. How will the existing facilities be preserved? We don't need a visitor centre. Where on the property will it be built? Yep, good question. There's a chance that the plant will be accessed from Bluff Road instead of... Is there a chance that the plant will be accessed from Bluff Road instead of Carpenter Lane? Again, something that the committee would like to hear from you, your advice on that. Is there going to be a solar panel again? This is down on chemical safety. Well, I'm not reading all of them, by the way, but we will. Chemical safety, what waste products will the filtration plant produce? Where will they go? What kind of chemicals is used? How much will my property be devalued? How will you reimburse me? How much noise? Again, there's several different concerns on the same thing, so we'll sort them. What are the plans when a chemical spill impacts streams? What are the chemicals used? I should have read this one first. Will there be holding ponds of effluent? Do we know the answer to that one right now, Dave? Will there be holding ponds of effluent?
That's not current. It is not currently in the plan.
Okay, but yeah. But that's really helpful to know that that's a concern, is, does it look like a sewage treatment plant? Right. So that's something that as we go forward, I recognize that you're still not going to want it here, and let's know what it is and what it isn't. And that's, again, even if you don't want to give us any input, staying in touch with this process is going to get you accurate information and continue to have Water Bureau staff here so you can get your questions answered. And then, as I mentioned before, we've got cards for Christina and me. If you feel like you're not getting your questions answered, you can ask us and we'll try to get you answers. Who will pay for the new roads necessary for this project? Clackamas County and Multnomah County. There are no sidewalks anywhere. Cyclists and pedestrians are at risk when big trucks travel. These are all really helpful things. I appreciate that people took the time to do these, because these are things that the committee can discuss and prioritize. Traffic impact safety for the families of OTA, school traffic. Will there be a new roadway through the project? Preliminary access routes, proposed preliminary, where will the construction entrance going to be? Enforce a speed limit on construction trucks. I like that one. This one is the miscellaneous, right? Is this?
This is just kind of miscellaneous.
Right. Will the city of Sandy need the filtered water, and where will they access it? What effects will this construction have on area home values? Do you have land use approval? How much before beyond the estimate now will the construction cost? We won't know that for a little bit longer, but that's a good question. Why wasn't Roslyn Lake considered for the blast? That was asked to me while we were having a chat while you were doing your work. There's a matrix that I'm going to ask the staff to put prominently on their website, and I'll link to it on mine, of all the sites that were considered, all the different factors, and which of the factors were met at each of the sites, so that you can understand why the council chose to come here. How is this going to be paid for? Do we have federal funding? What if we don't get federal money? This one is environment. Is there mitigation for habitat and canopy impacts? Create pollinator habitat in buffers and plant screens. I like that suggestion. Impacts on fish-bearing streams. Impact on the aquifer and the wells. Again, that was a comment that I heard while I was chatting at the back about the aquifer that's near here and the impact on the wells that folks might have. How do you plan to mitigate water runoff from the top of the hill? We already get it in the backyard off the hill in the winter. That is a great example of why this process is important, because we would not know, at least I didn't know, that which way the water runs, where it pools, where it doesn't, we're looking at it over the summer. What is it going to look like in the winter? Obviously, we'll be looking at it over the winter. But this is where local expertise, you are the experts in how the water runs, how the traffic flows around here. And so we want you to, if you will, to continue to participate in this process, so that if it moves forward, we have the best project that it can possibly be.
Great. Well, the next thing on the agenda is we're going to have you pick your priorities of what you think are the most important things. What I will say is we're going to cover 100% of these topics. And but the reason why we want you to vote on what your priorities are is so that we make sure that we allocate the most time to the most important things that you're most interested in. So for those of you at the table, for those of you in the audience, you're going to get to vote on the way out so that it's not mayhem in here. You're going to have your own colored dots, which I can't remember what color. I think they're blue. I think you're going to have blue dots, and folks on the advisory group have orange dots. And we just want you to go take your own look at them and put you each have 4 dots, and put them by the 4 topics that you think are the greatest interest to you. Again, we are going to cover all the topics, and it is our goal to cover every question, to cover all of these. And we're going to make a document that we'll bring back next time that has all of these questions documented and organized into the topics that we're going to cover. So topic 4, if you really like one topic a lot, you could put all 4 on one if you want. There's no rules about that. So you're just going to take a few minutes to do that. And like I said, if you want to think about what your most important topic, if you're in the audience, we'll give you some so that you can come do it at the end of the meeting. I would say for these, it would just be the topic traffic. If you want to put it in the vicinity of the one that you think is most important, but I think it's fine to just say traffic is one of your top. Because otherwise, we're going to cover all these. I think if we just start focusing on the little ones, then you might start thinking we're only going to get to a few tiny little topics, which is not what we're going to do. So it's on the major topics. We can if there's one of these miscellaneous ones that you think is really important, then I would say these are so different from each other, you would have to put it on one.
Okay, have all of the SAG members been able to put their dots up? Yes? Okay, recall that I noticed some blue dots up here, which is fine. Obviously, those in the audience that don't have a chance to do that, we're going to look forward to your dots as part of the end of the session. So please hold on to those and put them up here before you leave, so we have that reflection.
And we will absolutely be counting them. They will be counted also. We're doing this to focus on which topics had the most. But yes, your dots will also be counted, those of you from the audience. So I think we'll just run through them real quickly. I can tell you that as I just counted them, the top issue is definitely traffic. So that got 18 dots. And I think we had a range, and I really appreciated so many specifics about things like the lack of sidewalks and some specifics here. So this is certainly a topic that we'll cover in a lot of detail. And I know we've talked about traffic, we've heard a lot about traffic in the past, and we fully understand that we need to talk about many more specific things here, and that's absolutely what we are going to do. So that is number 1. After that, there's a lot of pretty similar ones. So lights and noise, the facility size and appearance, the chemical safety, and what is that
wildlife.
one? Oh, wildlife and environment. All got about the same. So and then kind of the ones who had the fewest were the landscaping had the fewest. And these were actually just miscellaneous ones, so I would say it's hard, but there were 7 on the miscellaneous, so. So, did you want to
the
give
question is, we purposely force the members here on the committee to only have 4 dots. I mean, there's logic to that. It's about priority. Nikki said it. Every last one of these topical areas is going to be covered, okay? We're not going to dismiss any of them. It's more about the timing of talking about these topics. Certainly, traffic is more about construction traffic, so that's certainly, obviously, in the construction phase, but also as part of design, how can design incorporate questions about traffic such that they're mitigated, reduced, or so on. So it'll be part of any of those phases of the project. We force you to only use 4 dots, and that might feel a little like, oh gosh, I wish I had twice or 3 times that many. Of the members at the table here, is there any particular topical area, whether you voted on it or not, that you'd like to really say, boy, we need to really get some more information about that, learn more about it, share our thoughts or reactions among the table? Anybody?
And we're
Yes,
going to
sir.
start with the table, and we will give an opportunity for the greater
Right.
audience after we're through the tables.
Mike, please go.
I'm real interested in the route.
Sorry.
In the route that how you're going to get in and get out of this place. Not necessarily the construction traffic, but the absolute routes. Are we coming down Carpenter Lane? Are we coming down Bluff? We should know by now what the route is, because as we know what the route is, then our comments will get a lot stronger.
Excellent point. Okay, I saw a hand over here too. Pat, was it you?
Actually, mine addresses all the above, and like I was telling David earlier, it's really hard, and I think I can probably speak for most of the people at these tables, that we don't have any information. So it's really hard to come up with questions and concerns when we don't know the route. We don't know the actual size, the place, the inlet, the outlet, anything else other than we're being told it's going to go. And that's it. So it's really hard to come up with some specific ideas when we don't know much of anything at all.
And what I will say is we will be feeding you more information through the process. I mean, part of it is that the designer hasn't been on board yet, and we've been trying not to get ahead. But I will tell you, there will be more specifics. I don't want you to think that the level of information that's been provided so far, that's the only level that's going to be meeting after meeting after meeting. We will get into specifics, things like specific truck routes and things like, we can get into those types of specifics.
Okay, that's the other thing I was telling David is don't hand feed us bits of information. We want to know the sooner the better. That's going to make us a little happier than not knowing a darn thing at all, which is what we know right now.
I totally understand that's frustrating.
One more thing to add to that, and that is, this is not your only time to ask questions. Right? As Nikki said, more details, more data. You're going to ask a lot more questions once you know more and have more perspective to ask that question upon. So don't think this is the only time that we can put questions on the board. Throughout the entire process, we would ask whatever questions we need to deal with. All right, anybody else on the SAG that would like to reflect upon any comments up here, advocate for something, reiterate something, share thoughts? Okay. Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you. Was there anything else that maybe connected or not, that any member of the committee wanted to say before we go to community comments?
When will the council decide which project that they're going to go for, the 850 million or the 600 or whatever?
Great question. We have had the briefing, done the work session. The Public Utility Board, the Portland Utility Board is going to give us some advice probably over the next month or so, and then we'll have a resolution at council maybe in November to have a proposal to see which one the council wants to choose. So in reference to your question, the reason that the staff can't tell you exactly what it's going to be is that decision hasn't been made yet. And even when the council makes the high-level concept decision in terms of how many pipes in, how many pipes out, then we get a design consultant, a contract with the company that's going to actually design and build the project, and they will then come back and tell us, this makes most sense geologically, with all engineering-wise, whatever. So in some senses, we wanted to come out early to find out what kinds of things should we be telling the consultant and the construction company what to think about. I've learned a lot tonight just in terms of traffic flow and such, but and the water flow and the aquifer and all those things. So that's what I realize it's frustrating, but on the other hand, you're here at the very beginning of designing this project, and therefore your input can make a big difference to if this goes forward. I just said if again, because I recognize that community members can rise up and get senators, United States senators and Congresses to change their minds. It's happened before. The staff are not going to say if, because the council has told them, go ahead and build this, get this project done. So that's why they won't be saying the kinds of things that I have said tonight, because that's not what the staff does. The staff does what the people who are making the decisions tell them to, which is kind of why I have to tell them to do it, because the federal government is telling me to do it. So with that, I wanted to address that. Yeah.
The house on Carpenter Lane that the city is, or the Water Bureau, is it the Water Bureau that's purchasing it, or is it the city of Portland that's purchasing it?
The Water Bureau has asked to purchase it. I've asked for some more information as to why they need to purchase that. Although the plant is not going to cover the whole site, when you have a big site like this, and obviously the plant is going to be single-story. They don't have two-story filtration plants, so I'm told. It's going to cover a fair amount of the site, and so the reason that the staff gave me as to why they want to buy this house is to have some more in and out places, some more flexibility about where on the site do they want to site it, but I've asked for some more information on that, and that decision has not yet been made.
So you may not purchase the property, or is that a done deal, and when do you go to council to get that approval?
It's not a done deal. We have not yet purchased it. I have not yet said, yes, I'm going to sign the request to council to authorize the purchase for it. There would be a hearing before the city council to explain why we think we need that at the price that is being asked for it, and then the council will vote on that. And I haven't decided yet when I'm going to ask the council to make that decision, because I don't have all the information yet. So like you, we're asking a lot of questions and want to understand more about what the choices are. The overall cost of the project has come up, and we're really worried about that for our ratepayers, for the 1 million people that drink Bull Run water. So I'm going to be asking the staff, are there any cost-cutting measures that could be done while still doing a safe, good, solid project that's going to last for the next 100 years? Is there any way to make it less expensive, for example? So there's a lot of questions that still need to be asked. We have not yet put out the design contract to say what the maximum price will be. And again, that's why I'm really glad that you're all here tonight, because you're giving us valuable input into that. I'm going to take some audience, either emphasizing which of the concerns you'd like to have the committee discuss in full detail, or basically whatever you want to say.
So I wouldn't be interested in buying my house right now because, well, there's going to be a big water plant built next there, so I don't think other people are either. I believe that the value of my property is going to be severely depreciated and devalued. I think it already is devalued with this stuff going on. If I tried to sell right now, people go, oh, no, I'm not moving there. There's a water plant. It's like living in the city. We moved out to be in a bucolic neighborhood where it's quiet and peaceful, and you're taking that away from us. I want to know how you're going to reimburse us.
Thank you for your comment. Others?
No answer? They're not. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Are you going to, as far as the budget goes, are you going to like put a cap on what they can spend? Because recently it was just on the news that they forgot to figure in the pipe cost. So the cost, last I heard, was $850 million. So is there going to be a cap, like, okay, you guys have to keep it at this point and no more?
Yes, eventually when we have a better estimate, we still only have about a 40% cost estimate at this point. The reason that we were not able to include the pipes before is because we hadn't decided where to put it. It was when we were still looking at the 7 different sites. If it had gone at a different site, there would have been a different cost for the amount of piping. And there's still, as I was mentioning, we're going to making some decisions on how many pipes, what the route of the pipes is. The most expensive piping option uses more of the right-of-way, so it avoids crossing people's property and impacting other parts of it. So, but eventually we will get to a contract which will have a guaranteed maximum price.
Or uses right-of-ways? Are you talking like the existing easements that are already there, or are they doing new easements?
I'm saying that some of the options use the streets, the right-of-ways, that are not people's property. But then obviously if you're not going across people's property, they're longer. And that's why some of the options are more expensive.
This whole project, are you prepared to reimburse people if there's an accident or if some reason national disaster happened and we lose property or people die? Are you prepared to compensate for that?
I don't know of a scenario in which people would die, and we just compensated people in Portland who were impacted by a water main break that happened in North Portland. You may have seen it on the news. And yes, even though the city was not actually liable, we said the right thing to do is to compensate those people.
Oh, Amanda, go ahead.
Commissioner Fritz, can you tell us what measures exactly to take so that we can get you out of our neighborhood? If it hasn't been decided, we want to know what we can do, specifically since you're inside and you know the different measures that can be done, the people to talk to. Can you educate us since we're all here together and on the same page? We don't want you here.
I recognize that. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this project. I fought it for 10 years.
And I know that you have to, the federal government says, but we want you to choose another location.
Okay, so we're going to get the matrix up that shows you what our choices were in terms of location, and there isn't another choice.
Your commission to choose another location. So what can we do to educate your people to make a different decision?
Find me another location that would work.
Okay, don't you have some locations?
There were 7 locations that were looked at. This is the only one that works.
I don't know if it's the only one.
We'll get that information put up on the website. This property was purchased in 1975 with the thought that there was going to need to be a Water Bureau facility on it at some point, and unfortunately at this point we're at that point.
So you talked about an uprising though. What can we do?
You can talk to your United States Senator and United States representatives and ask them to change the federal government's laws.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that it's going to happen.
Besides the fact that you have eliminated some of the other choices for sites, is there any that you can consider, again, because it impacts less people, that's maybe more remote, more rural?
They actually don't work in terms of the biology and or the engineering, the hydraulics and such. Maybe David Peterson could...
Commissioner Fritz is right. They didn't work from a hydraulic standpoint. This site allows us to achieve the greatest gravity flow possible, so we don't have to pump all the water into it or out of it. And that's one of the key features. The other is the fact that we have owned the property since 1975 with the idea that it would be used for a water system purpose like this.
Why didn't you notify people then when you bought this property that this might happen? Because if we had known it was going to happen, we would not have bought here. I came out there for a peaceful existence. I lived in downtown Portland where drugs and prostitutes and guns were going off all around me. I moved out here for my sanity. I did not need you to come here and disturb it.
Understood.
My dad died in the process. I'm sorry.
Do you think there's a possibility, because of the substantial increase in cost and the 800, as I understand it that I've read, the 850 million still has a plus or minus 50% variance, that if the costs keep escalating, that you will go back and look at these other sites or other alternatives? Or is it now, because you've chosen this site, it's just the cost really doesn't play into it like it might otherwise?
The council's going to be having some conversations about that. The other sites don't work, and the other sites don't make it any less expensive. In fact, in some cases, they'd make it more expensive ongoing because you'd have to pump, which would be problematic in an earthquake situation. The other alternative was to do an ultraviolet treatment for the cryptosporidium that we don't have. And 10 years ago, that's what I advocated for, is that if we don't need this facility in the first place, let's do a $200 million facility instead of a $500. Back then it was $700 million. I've changed my thinking in the last 10 years because of climate disruption. The Eagle Creek fire came really close to the watershed. And if the Bull Run watershed were to burn, we would not be able to drink from it, and we do not have the capacity with the groundwater system in Portland to provide water for 1 million people for as long as it would take for the watershed to grow back. And so that's why I believe that the filtration plant, even though it's expensive, is the only responsible action at this point. And that the increase in the rates is about 5%. I don't know at what point the increase would be so high that people would say, well, then let's just do something that doesn't, let's buy 200 million worth of stuff that does no good to anything. But that's how the logic of kind of how my mind has changed as to why it's worth this investment at this point.
Is it a cryptosporidium problem or is it a turbidity problem? So you're focusing on the fires and the fact that we need to protect the reservoir. So is it crypto or is it turbidity?
The reason we have to do it is cryptosporidium because of the federal rules. The reason I think that would mean that we would have to do either ultraviolet or filtration. The reason that I have now come around to choosing filtration is for resiliency and because of, I think that the climate catastrophe that we're currently in leads me to believe that it's not sustainable to not have a protected watershed. This has gone downhill really fast, right? We've come to the end of the world of speed. I mean, this is such a disruption for your neighborhood, and I acknowledge that. And I'm really sorry if there was any other way to do it with less impact to any neighbors. We would certainly be doing that. I looked at all the other options, and I don't see one, and I'm really sorry about that. So the question before was asked, why should we participate in this process? It's a sham. And my answer to that is, what have you got to lose? It's just possible that these folks are here to listen to you, that these folks are here to try to address the concerns that you have, that these folks are really, the staff are really appreciative to the people who are willing to sit at the table and give us your opinion. And if it turns out that is how it works out, then if you get this project, it'll be a better project. If you don't participate, it'll happen anyway, and we won't know all of the local knowledge. And so that's why I'm asking you to continue to participate in the process. You can sign up for the email list, please. We're still getting comments to my office that people didn't know about this project or don't know about it. So, to the extent that you can, obviously you're wearing your T-shirts and talking about it when you're getting together, but please continue to do that and explain to people what it is and how they can get involved. The website will continue to be updated, and we'll make sure we've got that matrix up. I wanted to say thank you to Micah Meskel, who's on the Portland Utility Board, who's here listening to all of this, and also to Rob Martineau, who's the American Federation of State, Municipal, and Federal Employees that's not actually the right order. Anyway, he's the AFSCME representative for the Water Bureau and our Labour partner. And they're here tonight listening to you as well. So let's say just some things we got accomplished tonight. I heard more about the local concerns. I heard your anguish, and I wish I could do something to take it away. I will do whatever I can to make it a little bit better or a lot better. You learned a little bit about what a good neighbor agreement is, and you also learned from what your neighbors are thinking about who's here. Heard the comments about who's not here. That'll be for next meeting. If there are other people who need to be added to the committee, that's certainly something that we would welcome. So if you know of people who should be at the table, but ongoing, these meetings will be public meetings. We'll be taking public testimony. You'll have other opportunities to be involved. And the next meeting is same time, same place, next week, October 10th, 6 to 8, right here. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.